Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today our topic is on PTSD, also known as post-traumatic stress disorder. So let's get started. So what is PTSD? As I mentioned earlier, PTSD basically means post-traumatic stress disorder. So imagine going to a haunted house. As you walk through the dark corridors, you hear sudden loud noises and see terrifying sights that startle you. You might feel a racing heart and sweaty palms as your body goes into flight or fight mode. But as soon as you leave the haunted house, you know that the experience was just a show and you can calm down and go back to your normal life. Now imagine that the experience you had in the haunted house was real. Maybe you were in a car accident or you witnessed a violent crime. Your body still reacts the same way it did in the haunted house, racing heart, sweaty palms, and a sense of danger. But unlike the haunted house, the traumatic event was real, and the fear and anxiety don't go away. That's where PTSD comes in. When someone experiences a traumatic event, their brain can become stuck in a state of flight or flight mode, even when they're not in a danger anymore. This can lead to symptoms like flashbacks, where the person feels like they're reliving the traumatic event, even though it's not happening again. They might also avoid situations or people that remind them of the traumatic event or feel constantly on edge, like they're ready for danger at any moment. These symptoms can be really hard to deal with and can impact a person's daily life in a big way. But the good news is that there are treatments available that can help people manage their symptoms and live a happier, healthier life. With the right care and support, people with PTSD can learn to cope with their experiences and move forward in a positive way. Now let's talk about the causes of PTSD. So PTSD can be triggered by a wide range of traumatic events. Some of the most common causes are military combat. Soldiers who have experienced combat or other traumatic events during their service are at high risk of developing PTSD. Sexual assault. Survivors of sexual assault may develop PTSD due to the trauma of the experience as well as the feeling of shame, guilt, or fear that can accompany it. Third is natural disasters. People who have experienced natural disasters like hurricanes, earthquakes, or wildfires may develop PTSD due to the sudden and overwhelming nature of the event. Fourth is serious accidents. People who have been in serious accidents, such as car crashes or train derailments, may develop PTSD due to the physical and emotional trauma of the experience. Fifth is childhood trauma. Children who experience abuse, neglect, or other traumatic events during their formative years may develop PTSD that persists into adulthood. It is important to note that not everyone who experiences a traumatic event will develop PTSD. However, certain risk factors, such as a history of trauma, family history of mental illness, or even lack of social support, can increase a person's likelihood of developing the disorder. It's also worth noting that some people may develop PTSD from events that might not be or seem traumatic to others, such as difficult childbirth or a serious illness. Ultimately, everyone's experience is unique, and it is important to take individual circumstances into account when discussing the causes of PTSD. Now, coming to the risk factors of PTSD. First is previous trauma. People who have experienced trauma in the past are at a higher risk of developing PTSD after a subsequent traumatic event. This is sometimes referred to as complex PTSD. Second is genetics. While there is no single PTSD gene in specific, research has shown that certain genetic factors may increase the person's chances of developing PTSD. For example, variations in the FKBP5 gene have been associated with an increased risk of PTSD. Third is brain chemistry. Imbalances in certain neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine have been linked to an increased risk of PTSD. Fourth is personality traits. People who are naturally anxious or neurotic may be more prone to developing PTSD. Additionally, those with a history of substance abuse or other mental health conditions may be at a higher risk. Lack of social support. People who lack strong social support networks, such as close friends or family members, may be more vulnerable to developing PTSD after a traumatic event. It is worth noting that not everyone who has these risk factors will develop PTSD, and some people who don't have any of these risk factors may still develop a disorder. Ultimately, PTSD is a complex condition with many different contributing factors, and each person's experiences will be unique. Now let's talk about the symptoms of PTSD. First is intrusive thoughts. These are unwanted and distressing thoughts or memories of the traumatic event. They can be triggered by reminders of the event and can cause feelings of anxiety, fear, or panic. Second is avoidance behavior. People with PTSD may try to avoid reminders of the traumatic event, such as places, people, or activities that remind them of the event. They may also avoid talking about the event or their feelings related to it. Third is negative changes in mood and cognition. This can include feelings of guilt, shame, or hopelessness, as well as difficulty concentrating, memory problems, and a loss of interest in activities they used to enjoy. It is important to note that not everyone who experiences traumatic events will develop PTSD, and the severity and the duration of symptoms can vary from person to person. If you or someone you know is experiencing symptoms of PTSD, it is important to seek professional help from a mental health provider. Imagine going through life with a backpack on your shoulders. It's heavy and it's filled with things that remind you of the worst experiences of your life. The backpack is always with you and you can't take it off no matter how hard you try. That's what it's like to live with PTSD. The traumatic experiences of the past are always with you, weighing you down and affecting your daily life. People with PTSD might have trouble sleeping, experience flashbacks or nightmares, or feel on edge all the time. These symptoms can make it hard to do things that other people take for granted, like going to work, socializing with friends, or even just leaving the house. PTSD can also have a profound impact on relationships. People with PTSD might have trouble trusting others or forming close bonds, and they may feel isolated or disconnected from the world around them. This can make it hard to maintain friendships or romantic relationships and can lead to feelings of loneliness or despair. The good news is that with the right treatment and support, people with PTSD can learn to manage their symptoms and improve their quality of life. Therapy, medication, and alternative treatments like yoga or meditation can all be effective in helping people with PTSD find relief from their symptoms. It is important for people with PTSD to know that they are not alone and that help is available. With the right care and support, it is possible to move forward and live a fulfilling life, even with the weight of the past on your shoulders. That's all. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.